Hi, I'll take you on a little tour of my roses out west. Starting here we have a Red Dawn X Suzanne that was given to me, I think, by David Zlizak. And I got one pollination to take. One nice fat hip down here somewhere. And I believe I used some Radler roses for that pollen, a blend of mostly Radler roses, so we can go back and revisit the work that all the Canadians did with some Radler genetics. Here's another Red Dawn X Suzanne that Margit Showalter gave to me, followed by Grouse that David gave to me. Grouse is I think they back-crossed the fairy back to Wichuriana, and supposedly a good parent. There's a few little tiny open pollinated hips which I'll plant because supposedly these diploids are not self-fertile. Betsy Vanderhoek gave me this one, and it's either Pax Apollo or a thornless buck rootstock, and I don't know which. It's thornless and spreading. All these roses are in their first year. It has a nice scent to the leaves. All these roses are in their first year, so they haven't gone through a winter yet. L83. Julie Overham gave this to me. Lots of hips, open pollinated hips. I did not get around to doing any pollinations with this one in its first flush. These two are cuttings of a seedling of mine that I call Yellow Winnipeg Parks. It's an open pollinated seedling of Winnipeg Parks that happen to be yellow. It sets hips. These were just planted this year. They're far away from any other roses, and that's probably the only reason that they don't have black spot, to be honest. This next one is another of mine. It's a cross between that Yellow Winnipeg Parks and William Baffin. And I'll show you some blossoms on another one just down the street here. This one I call Hardy Winnipeg Parks. The mama plant of this has been doing much better than Winnipeg Parks, but it still gets black spot in it. I'm just guessing at the parentage, but it really looks like a Winnipeg Parks seedling. This is David Zlizak's Oh So Happy Petite Pink, just loaded with buds. And very healthy looking, but again, there's no disease pressure yet in this area. And this one is my another cutting of my cross between the Yellow Winnipeg Parks and the William Baffin, and it has a nice whitish undersides to the leaves with strong yellow in the middle. I like. Oh, but not perfectly healthy. The mama plant is getting some black spot, and it's not super floriferous either, but anyways, just having fun. This is Aurora, Robert Erskine's Aurora acicularis selection. Just a cutting that I took from my mother plant they will root. Here is rugosa number 3, a supposed tetraploid rugosa created by Joan Monteith and given to me by Rob Burns. And we have one open pollinated hip there. And this is a hip that I pollinated with something that actually set. I pollinated many, but that was the only one that set. Next to it is a cross between that and Rue Glauca, and that has then been selfed for a couple generations. Sorry, cross between that rugosa number 3 and Rosa Glauca. Hard to see against the dirt. This is Rosa Glauca. They took that, I think Joan did, crossed it with that, and they got this after a couple more generations. No open pollinated hips on Rue Glauca yet, but she's doing well. Then in this row, this is Maiden's Blush. Very healthy. I had grown it in a pot for a couple of years and just planted it this year. Interesting blossom structure here, which is actually pigweed. I'm just kidding. And Stanwell Perpetual is surprisingly the most chlorotic of all the roses out here. I better quit this video now. Those are some open pollinated Zestar apple seedlings. The only other apple blooming next to it was chestnut for the most part. So I was hoping to get natural hybrids of chestnut and Zestar, since apples are self-infertile, self-incompatible. However, I think some of the neighboring Manchurian crab seedlings got in there, because a lot of these have characteristics of like the narrower leaf that seems to indicate Manchurian crab in it. But hey, it'll still be fun. I better stop this video, and then I'll show you some of these other roses that Margit gave me.